Welcome to this episode of the Customer-Centric Retailing Podcast. This is Anil Patel, founder and CEO of Upwest Commerce. In this podcast, we discuss e-commerce, omnichannel technology, pre-order management, brick-and-mortar operations, retail culture, innovation, and how all these elements come together to create customer-centric retailing. Join us to hear the brightest minds in the retail industry share their experiences and thoughts on the most relevant topics today. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Customer-Centric Retailing Podcast. Today we have with us Jamie Schisler. He is the Chief Comfort Officer at Upwest. Jamie has more than 20 years of experience in retail. And today I'm really excited to talk to him about some of those really special experiences that he has, particularly building up a new brand. So let's welcome Jamie. Jamie, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited. And so as we get started, please tell our audience about your journey in retail, particularly you've been in this retail industry for 20 years. I'm sure there's something particular about retail that clicks with you or you like. So yeah, we would love to hear those stories.
Yeah, for sure. So it's I started my career in merchandising at Abercrombie & Fitch, and this was in the late 1990s when everyone was going to the mall. Shopping online was not something that anyone had ever dreamed of or thought of. If they were thinking of it, there was a very small amount of people doing it, for sure. So I started my career there in the late 90s, and really what I loved about retail was just the ability to reinvent yourself as a business person. No retailer gets it right all the time, but you always have an opportunity to kind of, recreate yourself the following season or the following year. So just really liked the marriage of creative brand building with the kind of science of creating an assortment and creating a product line and how to really tell a story, but also then sell a story. And I think those are the two ingredients that great retailers understand. And so that always, I was a marketing major in college, and I just really loved the whole idea of telling and selling a story. So that's kind of why I've stuck in there and have kind of lasted as long as I have.
Awesome. This is something, I did not realize, even though I've been seeing all this seasonality to, retailing industry, especially in fashion. But I did not actually think of it in this terms that we get to try again, rethink, be creative every season. That's amazing, actually. Very powerful idea, really powerful idea. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, we only get so many chances to recreate ourselves, So you run out of chances after a certain period of time, but you certainly want to learn from the mistakes and just fall forward. I always say fall forward. You're going to fall, so just make sure you're falling forward and making new mistakes. So.
Yeah, that makes sense because at the end of the day, we have some capital to work with. We cannot keep losing every time.
That's right.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. Definitely, your journey from merchandiser to leading a company, building a new brand, that's something really, gets my interest. So I'm really going to be trying to talk as much as I can about this topic. So number one is the team at Express entrusted you into building this new initiative, a new brand. I personally can relate to it because working within an umbrella of a large corporation, you're working on creating a new brand. Now that has its own set of challenges because I've done something similar but at very small scale. But I can relate to those challenges. So tell us about those initial days when actually this idea was discussed in your company, in the group, and how you were feeling when you were given such a responsibility where to go and build this whole new business.
Totally. So really at the time, this was kind of mid to late 2018, and Express, who is our parent company, had a long history of being in retail, as your listeners may know, and had a strong balance sheet, but kind of some brand fatigue to a degree, where they were looking at how do we have other options of revenue available to the customer. A lot of legacy retailers, they reach points where they've run out of chances to recreate themselves. That wasn't Express, but until that day, before that day arrived, they wanted to have some other boats in the water, so to speak. So they approached me to kind of look at what other revenue opportunities might look like for the company outside of the Express label. And things that really were incremental to the business, but also leveraged what Express does well. Had I come back and said, "Hey, let's make furniture, or let's make dental equipment, or something obtuse like that," it wouldn't have made much sense. And you're not going to leverage the expertise of the supply chain and all the shared services that you get at Express. So the team just kind of said, "Hey, start to think about." Our leaders at Express trusted me with going out and really figuring out what the white space opportunity would look like in the market. And what we discovered was, and this, but even in the late 2018, no one was struggling to know where to go to buy clothing. So we discovered very early on that the brand really had to be rooted in a strong purpose, because just selling product, typically that's not something that is going to have a high degree of value proposition to a new consumer. The new consumers of today really need and want to be bought in on what does the company stand for, how does this fit into my life, how do my values align with the company. So we spent a lot of time really focusing on those things in the beginning, with the intent of really, positioning ourselves to have a strong purpose, have a strong set of values that can really be the benchmark of everything that we do, and that's the foundation of everything that we do. So those were the early days, and then COVID hit. So that very quickly after we launched the business, kind of threw some different variables at us that we weren't anticipating, but also allowed us to really grow somewhat quickly because we were online only. And we were selling a lot of products that were quarantine friendly, if you will. So it allowed us to, we weren't selling tuxedos or ball gowns, So it did allow us to probably get some traction a little earlier than we had anticipated. So that was an exciting time. Though a challenging time, it was an exciting time.
Yeah, this is interesting. So, definitely it's always, I would say, easier said than done when it comes to putting together a vision statement and putting together like a why we want to have this brand, what is our, brand story and all that. But, you know, manifesting it, making it real on the ground is hard. So, what do you think? How far have you come from your vision to today? How far have you come in your journey of bringing all that vision on the ground?
I think we're getting there. I think that oftentimes, where I think we've come a little further, and where I think it's changed is we now have consumers. Before you launch a business, you have a target consumer. But then once you launch, you have a real consumer, that may fit that target or may not. And I think where we've evolved is just understanding more directly what he and she is really, really looking to from us, and who that person is on a lot of different perspectives. And so I think I think the vision of the company when we first launched was to be not as lifestyle driven as it is today. And I say that in a good way. As we've gotten to know our customers, they're looking to our product for very different things than when we first launched. When we first launched, it was much more about a certain category of goods, like very much just loungewear, stuff to wear on the weekends. And then what we've discovered is our customers actually really look to us for items that can kind of carry them throughout the week and not just kind of on the weekend. So that part of it, I would say, has evolved far faster than we had anticipated. I think the difference is some things have checked and some things haven't, and you just kind of have to chalk that up to learning. And we've opened certain store locations that, I think we probably wouldn't have opened stores this early, actually, had COVID not kind of allowed us the opportunity to try some different store formats early on in our evolution. Coming out of COVID, companies were very and landlords were very interested in kind of giving new brands a short-term deal, just so they could get some, try to get some traffic back into the centers or to the streets. And so I say that part of it's been kind of a learning that was different than what we'd initially anticipated. But you also have to kind of, I think retailers in the 1980s and the 90s were never saying we're going to sell clothes through a computer. They had a vision that they were going to be on every street corner, and suddenly that vision, got changed very rapidly because of technology. Or the cab companies in the country had a certain vision for how the business was going to go, and then Uber showed up, and suddenly that got disrupted. So you kind of have to, as much as your vision is locked in, you also want to be, to a degree, flexible and not so stuck on the vision that it doesn't allow you to move with the consumers and move with the market. So
Yeah, that makes sense because, in fact, as compared to previous century, in last 20 years, we've seen many changes, particularly how people live and how they experience everything. So there's a lot is changing, and it's changing even faster now. Actually, next 10 years are going to bring even more changes. I'm like actually excited about for. So yeah. When building, so when building company like Upwest, which is, I would say, a digital first or a digital native brand, and then, like you said, you experimented with opening store locations. Now, being part of a company, Express, which is like a little bit more like you said, have so many stores. Express has pretty much store in every mall out there in the country. So there's like a very different style of doing business. Now you bring in Upwest, which is like a digital first native brand. So there are like a lot of differences between these two companies in general. So working within the umbrella of one big corporation with a totally new idea, that itself presents a lot of challenges, particularly for you who is leading all this initiative. You are trying to achieve something, but then because of culture of existing your colleagues there or other people in the company who are building, who are living day in day out the culture of the big corporation. Now there is some kind of a conflict there, some kind of a friction out there. I have felt myself, so I'm curious about your experiences on, like, let's say if somebody who took something path like yours, where they wanted to, within a big corporation, wanted to build a new brand like you are doing for Upwest, what kind of challenges they should anticipate? And like, we want to know about your story so we can learn from it. Yeah. So tell us about those, background stories. Yeah.
sure. So you're really asking, you're part of a large corporation, and you're given the opportunity to create something new within that organization. Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think that the challenges that come with it is just sometimes large corporations have kind of lost their why, and they're really focused on the what. So, for example, I've worked for large corporations, and as you've been there for a long period of time, sometimes you just focus on what do I have to get done today, and the why of that you're doing it, you don't even know why anymore. And I think consumers ultimately want to know why you're doing something. And so oftentimes, large companies, and I experienced this when we were launching the business, is no fault of their own, but large companies so much complexity gets added to it as they get bigger and bigger and bigger, that your week just gets populated with a lot of what's, and you lose sight of the why. So I think that'd be number one. I think number two is just simply you take things for granted when you're part of a large organization, and you take for granted the accessibility to data and to information and the speed at which you can get access to things. that you don't have when you're a startup, and you have to kind of retrain your mind that some things you can do very quickly because there's very low kind of barriers to approval or getting things done. But at the same token, you don't have all the resources that you had when you were part of a larger organization that can pull data and manipulate data and has just oodles of data available to it, right? That doesn't exist for a startup. You're making assumptions to a large degree, and you hope you make the right ones, and you can make some informed ones, but you just don't have that depth of knowledge, if you will. And I'd say the final thing is really from a technology perspective. A lot of times, larger corporations are on just bigger legacy systems, legacy order management systems, legacy retail management systems that, oftentimes when we're a small, scrappy Shopify brand looking to kind of intersect with some of these larger enterprise systems, it's kind of like putting a Buick engine into a Tesla. It just doesn't really work. And so we've had some of those growing pains along the way as well. Certainly, it's awesome to leverage some of that tech stack that the larger corporation has. But what we discovered in our journey is that, man, we probably shouldn't have touched any of those systems in the Express tech stack because they just don't interface with the as seamlessly as they interface with kind of systems that were created in the last few years. So those are the big ones, I think. Kind of taking things for granted, maybe the amount of data that's available to you, and then just some of the system kind of bumps in the night that we've experienced trying to get a really out of the box system solution to integrate nicely with these kind of larger legacy systems.
Yeah, it's always a challenge when you have something available, like in your bigger corporation you already have that legacy systems and they are working. So saying no is hard to begin with, but then when you use them, there are challenges, and at that point, like you said, you always have a second thought that, oh man, I should have not done that and gone for something totally new. That totally makes sense. Yeah. So like, when building these new brand, new company, you have this whole vision, something that always you want to do something creative, you want to tell your story. And today, particularly with the digital native brands, you are looking for technology to help you tell your story, help you deliver the experience you want to deliver to the customer, exactly the brand you want to deliver. Now, what do you think? Do you see that the tech industry or the technologies that you have available at your disposal, do you see that there is enough out there, or you have a wish list that, what man, if I had these three more things, somehow if I could do that, that would have helped me or made my life easier, or the vision would be much more clearly delivered to the customer, and I could really amaze my customers.
Yeah, sure. No, it's a great question. I think one thing we underestimated was truly the amount of shopping that happens not just on our website, but on a mobile phone. And we of course we knew people shop on their phones. Don't get me wrong, but about 90% of our revenue comes through mobile, and oftentimes the consumer experience on a mobile phone, as you know, is very different than even on a PC or a tablet. And so I think trying to convey the brand, purpose, values, emotion, all those things is difficult digitally. It becomes even more difficult when it's on a screen the size of a phone. And so I think, the technology that probably doesn't exist yet, that I think would really, really help us reduce some of the friction that exists in digital retailing to physical retailing, is simply, how do you touch, feel, try on a product digitally in the way that you can physically in a store? One of the biggest tensions. So I don't think there's anything that's held us back on how to tell the story of the brand. Physically, you can obviously get to more senses, smell, touch and feel. that you can't get online, right? Even audio, to a degree, right? So I wish we could capture all the senses, but more than that, the friction of trying something on and feeling it in a store that you just can't do digitally is probably the hardest thing, I think. And if we were able to, from a technology perspective, reduce that friction, I think it would benefit a ton of retailers. And there's some things out there, but they're more upload a photograph of yourself and you can see what the item will look like on you. It doesn't take into consideration your body shape or what the fabric is or how much stretch is in the fabric. It truly is actually stretching the garment to fit on the photograph you're uploading. It's not scientific. But the reality is returns online are much, much higher than in a store. Because someone orders it, it doesn't fit the way they wanted it to fit, it doesn't feel the way they thought it would feel, et cetera, et cetera. So I think if we could reduce that friction, I think the brand would actually come to life even better, because people would be able to say, wow, this really is soft, this really is cozy, this really is different than other things that are out there. It doesn't exist today, to my knowledge, or if it does, it's probably incredibly expensive. And so I think that's the one thing I would say. I don't think we've gotten held back telling the story. You have to be much more focused on what you communicate, like I said, because we're talking about a phone screen. But I think that would be the one big thing for us, I think.
Yeah, I totally get you. And in fact, as much I have traveled in different conferences, tech conferences, I haven't seen anything yet, even in experimental stages. So I think for retailing for some time, we'll have to rely on or actually build out some physical store network. And physical store network is right now the only way for us to present the actual product to the customer and have them experience it. So, there's no way out right now. But maybe, that's a good idea. Actually, that's good for us, because let's say if I could do it all on my phone, then really I will miss that experience in my life, where an activity that I go out, go in the store, talk to people, check out different products. I mean, there's this whole thing. It's about living. It's about life. Why? I totally get it. As a retailer, it will help you to reduce returns if that technology was available and be able to sell more digitally. At the same time, I cannot imagine how it will impact us at a social level. So I think hope that technology doesn't come up anytime soon, and instead we could actually find a different solution like physical stores or something. But at the same time, I totally get it that returns are a big pain, especially in case of digital first brands, because customers otherwise, they are buying items for trying out, and they try out few items and they keep one and maybe return back 4 or 5, and at that point that's like a liability for the retailer to manage all those returns, what to do with those. Yeah. So yeah, well, but hopefully this message gets out and there is somebody out there who's working on it and doing something about it.
You never know, right? You never know. Certainly if they're out there, I'm listening.
Like earlier we were discussing, as a retailer, as a fashion brand, you get to try new things every season, but you can only do so many times because there are like cost components. It takes money to design, makes money to manufacture, stock stuff, and then retailing. Marketing itself is such a big expense. So they're at a very high level, we are talking about inventory is the cost, marketing is the cost, getting the product out to the customer and managing returns is a big expense. So what are, as a retailer, particularly in a digital first brand, what are the key strategies you think you apply for balancing these cost factors, and what is it that you think where we can improve or we can do better to improve the margins?
I think the biggest thing is we're in the stage of building the customer base, right? And oftentimes when you are invited to do something like this with a large company, um, you want to, obviously, the goal is to make profit, and the goal is to provide a return on the investment. But I think you've got to go in knowing that you can grow the brand over. You don't grow the brand overnight, and you need to grow the sales over time. And so you kind of have to go in with a stomach for this. This might take a couple of years, to really build the brand the way that we think is the right way. But to your point, you really want to start looking at your margins and how do you get those to be in a place that gets healthier year over year. And I think the big ones for us are, how do we a leverage cost of goods through our ownership with Express. And so really, relying on their buying power. So we're fully leveraging that relationship. I think part B is, how do you increase conversion? Particularly when you're talking about a website, where in our industry, selling on a website, if you can get 4% conversion, so you get 4 out of 100 people that visit your website to buy something, that's pretty good. So you look at that and you say, man, we just need 4 people out of 100 to buy something. Well, in my mind, I'm like, 96 people didn't buy something. So how do you get them to convert? The end of the day, I think personalization and the site looking more and more personalized to the individual that's on that page, where it might be merchandised differently based upon their shopping behaviors or based upon where they came from previous to coming to your site. That whole world should help us increase our conversions. We increase our conversions, we increase our return on ad spend, and we just make more money. Obviously, we grow our sales, and we grow our margins. I think the final thing is, really, now that we have a customer base that we've established, is how do you build, I don't want to say loyalty within them, because I do think in the past, loyalty programs became just about promotion. Oh, you've bought 10 things from us, now you get, your next 10 are going to be at a discount. And loyalty programs just trained people to not pay full price. But I think for a way for us to grow our business is to figure out, also within our customers who are our best customers, are our VIPs, how do we really engage them and reward them for their loyalty, but not just through points per purchase, through really making them feel like part of the team, and really making them feel like we're adding value to their life. So I think a deeper connection with our customers, now that we've been open now for a few years, and so we have permission to really kind of go the next level of relationship with them. And I think that's what you'll see more and more from us in the coming year, is leaning into existing customers, more and more site personalization to drive conversion, and ultimately, really growing new categories of business. Our product catalog's not enormous. So, over time, as you learn more and more what he and she want from us, it creates a unique opportunity to expand on those categories and find the right accessories to those categories, expanding those categories into new fits and shapes and colors and all those things. And so I think I'd say the final thing is really men's. Men are tougher customers to acquire financially. It takes a slow burn with a male customer, getting them to kind of trust you, like you, want to spend their money with you. But the more we can grow awareness in our men's business, they're also very loyal, and that customer will continue to pay you back over a long period of time. So kind of gaining awareness amongst the men's audience will also really just help us long term with the margin structure of the business as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last part, what you said, the men's thing, because I've been like Express customer for last 10 years or something, and all I do is just walk in and I know exactly what I want and I just walk away. I never go to other stores. Rarely ever go to other stores, just because. So men are like, it just either they like it or they don't like it. There is no if and what and anything between. It's just you go there and you like it at first sight or not. And if you like it, then you keep coming back because you don't want to think about it. So I see what your point is, that if there is a right product for certain kind of customers, and if they can keep coming back, then definitely that is like a very important business to build, because that's like a much higher margin, because you are keeping, getting a new customer is very expensive actually. So yeah, with the whole digital native thing, importantly, like it's much easier to cater your loyal customers in on digitally, because now they know your fabric, they know your product fittings of the products and stuff, so they can order much more confidently. It's more of like you need physical store when a customer is trying out your product for the first time, basically.
Sure, sure.
Cool. So, like, definitely, we've had really good insights about your journey in Upwest, and you told us about like some key ideas. So, let's summarize, like, what are the key strategies or key, what you'd say, advice you would give to someone like you trying to build, being a given task to build out a new brand within a company? Or what are the key, what would you advise to them, and like, what are the things they should keep in mind?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a great question. I would say really, really understand your why. I said that before about kind of a legacy business and kind of where they might get challenged, particularly in retail. Particularly the retailers that a lot of us grew up shopping, or for myself grew up working for. You kind of take for granted what your why is, because in the companies that kind of like the Gap, Banana Republic, some of these businesses grew in enormous ways in the 80s and 90s, just through rolling out more and more stores. And suddenly it became not just how many stores, but how big was the store. So some of these stores were 15,000, 20,000 square feet. And all of a sudden it didn't become about why, it just became about what. We're going to fill it with what? Sweaters, shirts, jeans, this, that, the other. And that's still the core. It's still, people are buying jeans and sweaters, but you really, I think the invitation to a brand, or someone's creating a brand, is like, really, at the end of the day, why? Why would someone want to shop your brand? And maybe it's the lowest price. Maybe it's the highest price. Maybe the why is it's all patent protected designs. Whatever it is, really staying core to the why. I'd say the second thing is really take advantage of the companies that are built for speed and agility. And so there's so many great resources out there, particularly brands that launch on Shopify. Not that this is a plug for Shopify, but it's built for out-of-the-box solutions. And I think the more that someone can truly understand the full capabilities of what that can do for them, the better. And I would argue, you start online, you get data very quickly that can help inform future decisions. And that's the final thing, is really use data, not don't overanalyze it, but really find the right performance indicators within the data to inform you. And to guide you to the right path forward, because there's so much data out there, it can become overwhelming. But any data that just helps you get closer to the customer and helps you understand more about your customer is valuable data. And know who your customer is. And it's okay if you go in thinking your customer is one thing, and then when you start selling, you find out your customer is someone different. That's totally okay. That why still might be the same in terms of what your business, your value prop as a business, but stay close to the customer. You gotta stay close, and at the end of the day, you're advocating for him or her, and that's sometimes hard for business leaders to remember. Is it becomes about their opinion or their taste level or their thoughts and feelings, and it's like, that's great, but like, you got a customer you're trying to sell to, and so really got to stay close to the customer, and ultimately you want to zig before they zag. But minimally, when they start zagging, you want to zag along with them. So
Yeah, it makes sense. And like, with this whole focusing on customer, and then there's this trick where sometimes this advice or a statement that Steve Jobs made, that not customers don't even know what they want. But then, a lot of times people like, they take it literally, and they always trying to say, no, this is the product, I know customer wants this, and they lose track of what actually customer wants. So like you said, you have to go both ways. You have to a little bit come up with the innovative ideas, but at the same time work with the customer and see what they want, and get them what they really would appreciate or they get the value out of. So that's important part of it. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So yeah, so like, you since starting in 2018, you've come a long ways. Like what? Now it's like 5 years coming up.
that's right. Yeah, almost four, 5 since I started the brand, 4 since we've been open. That's right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So 4 years. So there's some really, I'm sure you achieved good milestones in this part of the journey. So tell us about those milestones, and what is in the future, what's coming that is getting you most excited about it.
Yeah, sure. I think some of the milestones are, we've shipped over 500,000 orders, which is a huge milestone for us, all through our website. We've achieved some wholesale relationships and partnerships. Gets our product into other retailers, so that's been a milestone for us. We've opened stores. That's been a milestone for us, obviously. And I think that the big milestones going forward are going to be, how do we build on the progress we've created? I don't think there's a ton revolutionary we're going to do, but there's going to be a lot of evolutionary things that we do. Expanding into denim, which has been a very successful category for us. Expanding into a partnership with Aura Health, which is an awesome app that provides meditations to customers, and we're finding ways to incorporate their content onto our website and into our clothes. And so there's a lot that I think will evolve. And there's other things that will be milestones. We don't have a mobile app. We don't have a loyalty program that rewards best customers right now. We don't have a resale market where when customers want to resell their Upwest products that they can come to. So there's also areas like that I think we don't have a market. We don't have a marketplace on our website that carries other retailers through a drop ship method. So there's lots of things that we can do that you'll see us try and see us continue to, because at the end of the day, we don't want to, like I had said before, we don't want to become too reliant on any one thing. I think what COVID taught so many businesses is, if you're reliant on neckties, for example, or suits, for example, then all of a sudden that business very quickly is gone. And I think companies realize they've got to have other things available to keep the revenue stream diversified. So I think that's what we've been able. That's a milestone we've crossed. We do have stores. We do have wholesale relationships. We do have our website. Now, how do we continue to evolve that, to have a resale market, to have a loyalty program that rewards best customers, to have all these other things that I think do. They're additive, they're truly additive, and take the pressure off just one or two things in the business really being the drivers of everything. So,
Yeah, and definitely, the items you've listed, they are not small. It will take a lot of planning, a lot of energy to get them done right, and make sure they keep working as you anticipate them or you want them to work. So it's going to take a lot of work. So you have our best wishes for that. Hopefully everything should come as you wish and as you envision, that it comes to ground exactly like what you want it to be. So, well, it was really good talking to you. I really enjoyed the conversation. I got what I really wanted out of this conversation. So I want to once again thank you very much for being with us today.
well, thank you so much, and you've got a friend and a fan in me, and whatever you need, you certainly know where to find me.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much. That's it for this episode of the Customer Centric Retailing Podcast. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast. Please rate and review and recommend to a friend or a fellow retail fanatic. This podcast is presented by Hotworks Commerce.